Hello and welcome to another Sinister Sunday. Today we're going to go over true paranormal experiences from people all over the world. Whether or not you believe in the paranormal, the people who report having these experiences are certain that when it comes to paranormal activity, they've experienced something they simply cannot explain. Our first story, The Late Night Visitor, comes from John Allan. John recalls the incident like it was yesterday. John was 16 at the time and was invited to stay with his friend and his friend's mother up in their cabin in New Hampshire. The first day they were there was pretty uneventful. They unpacked the stuff they needed for the weekend, and by the time anyone knew it, it was time to turn in for the night. John lay awake in the bed. He was having a hard time falling asleep in a strange place, and around 3 a.m. he was still awake. John remembers thinking to himself how eerily quiet and pitch black the house was. But just a few moments later, John would find himself praying for that silence to come back. As John lay there tossing and turning, the silence was broken by the sound of the front door opening and then footsteps entering the house. John listened curiously as the person's footsteps pounded down the hallway. The footsteps were getting louder and louder, and then they stopped right in front of John's door. The door then swings opened, and John was instantly petrified. Standing there in the walkway was this tall, dark shadow that looks like a silhouette of a man. The figure makes his way to the center of the room, then bows down onto the ground and disappears. John, trembling, decides he's going to stay up all night in the fear that the figure will come back and look at him or do something even worse. Finally, he hears the sound of his friend's mother making coffee in the kitchen. He leaps off the bed and runs to the kitchen to tell her what happened. The whole time, John is explaining the story. His friend's mother is just listening and looking at him with sympathy in her eyes. After John was done telling his story, his friend's mother just looked at him and said, "My husband visited me too last night." It turns out John's friend's father was deceased. That cabin in New Hampshire will be etched in John's mind forever. He will never forget what he witnessed as a boy there that night. Our next story, Dad, Was That You?, comes from one of our channel members, Mary, from Luna Eclipse Paranormal. Mary's family lived on a farm in Indiana when she was a teenager. It was a clear May day when Mary's father had passed away suddenly in the house from natural causes. Before his passing, the house was quiet. It lay dormant. But in October of that year that Mary's father passed, that would all change. In October is when Brenda, Mary's cousin, who was 17, came from California to stay with Mary and her family. October in Indiana could still be warm, so the family would put on fans and close and lock the windows every evening. Mary's family farm sat on a gravel road in a rural part of Indiana. There were only 2 houses on that long stretch of gravel road, Mary's farmhouse, and about a half-mile down was the neighbor's. Her neighbor raised champion Dalmatian dogs, which were worth a lot of money back then. Across the road from the neighbor's house was an old cemetery that dated back to the 1600s. The cemetery sat on about 2 acres of land, so relatively small. The first day Brenda was visiting that October, the girls went out and returned home around 10:30 p.m. The girls decided to read a little in Mary's room before going to bed. To get to Mary's bedroom, you could either go through the walk-in closet off the living room or go through her mom's room. There was a door in Mary's room that led to the outside and a window next to it, which Mary's bed was set up against. Mary's bed were one of those heavy metal twin beds that you couldn't move very easily on your own. The girls read a little, and Mary decided she was tired and wanted to go to bed. Her cousin Brenda then left to go to Mary's mom's room where she was staying during her visit. Mary turned off her bedroom lights, jumped into bed, and closed her eyes. About 15 minutes later, before Mary could even get into a really deep sleep, Mary suddenly snapped awake, startled by a dream she was supposedly having about someone trying to grab her through the window of her bedroom. Mary looked around and decided she must have been dreaming and closed her eyes again, trying to fall back asleep. But only seconds later, she started to hear noises. Thinking it was just her cousin going to the bathroom, Mary didn't even open her eyes. But just then, something grabbed onto both of Mary's ankles and jerked Mary down to the bottom of the bed. Mary flew up out of her bed and flipped on the light switch. Looking around the room, she realized that the bed was actually moved about 2 feet from the wall. That movement of the bed actually left scratch marks on the floor. Mary knew it couldn't have been her cousin or anyone in the house that could have moved that heavy bed with her on it like that. Mary stumbled into her mother's room, startling Brenda, who asked her what was wrong. When Mary had explained what had happened, Brenda said, "Oh, I heard footsteps just a few moments ago." Mary came to the realization that someone must have broken into the house. Mary grabbed for the family's hunting rifle. The girls went around checking the doors to make sure they were locked. When they got to the front door, Mary realized the family's German Shepherd was out on the porch, so she let him in real quick and closed the door. They continued to search the house with the dog all the way to the attic. When they couldn't find anything that seemed out of place or anyone, the girls decided to wake up Mary's mom. After her mom heard the girls' stories, she turned on the light and looked down at Mary's ankles, shocked at the bruises on her ankles that looked like thumbprints. Mary's mom was perplexed. How could someone do that and vanish into thin air? The family decided to stay together and awake. The family had been on the couch for a long while. There was no other noises or incidents. Now that it was around 4:30 a.m., the mother told the girls to go to sleep in her room. No sooner did the girls step off the couch, it started vibrating. Thinking that it was her son, the mother yelled out to stop. The son, who is now startled by the vibrating couch, says, "I'm not doing anything." The couch started to shake harder and then just stopped. The girls jumped back on the couch and stayed together with the family until about 5:15 or so, when they decided to go into their mom's bedroom and go to sleep. The new fan was on by the bedside, and after a few minutes of the girls being in the room, the fan just stopped. No slowing down, just stopped, as if someone hit the off button. Before Mary could even process what was going on with the fan, it started up again at full speed, and then got faster and faster until it just stopped again. Mary jumped off the bed and turned it off. Just a few minutes later, the fan turns on again, and then the bed starts vibrating. Mary's mom hears this commotion and decides it's enough. They grab some food and clothes and decide to head into town to her mom's sister's house. The mother sends someone out to go check the house. They find nothing. He checked the electric, everything was fine. He checked the fan, he couldn't find anything wrong with it, but he took it into town to get it looked at, thinking it must be faulty. Since there was nothing visibly wrong, they went back to the house later that night and found a small glass of milk just sitting on the kitchen table that no one had put there. Mary's father used to drink a glass of milk in the middle of the night. The phone rings, startling everyone, and Mary's mom answers it. It was the neighbors, telling Mary's mom that they were robbed at gunpoint last night and their prized dogs were stolen, along with everything in their safe and even some guns. Mary and the rest of the family now believe it was her father trying to keep the family safe and awake so that they wouldn't be the ones that were robbed. It's been over 40 years now, and Mary will never forget the details of that night. They are forever etched in her memory. Do you have a paranormal experience you wish to share? Please contact me on Messenger and I'll be happy to share your story. Thank you again for watching another Sinister Sunday. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Like this video and share it out. Please check out our Sinister Sunday playlist for more content like this. We'll see you next week.